Hello everybody, welcome to the third guide of the Autochess series. Dude, I'm having so much fun with Autochess. So we finally finished this presentation. It took a long ass time. There are so many things that I needed to push and so many visuals and whatnot, but it's finally here. It's the Tribes and Synergies Autochess guide. So this guide, we're gonna cover all the tribes, all the synergies, and some interesting things about them, like counters, kind of specific archetypes, and what you should do with them, like what a good late game comp is and stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and start with, well, basically all the tribes. We're gonna start with the aggressive ones. So the beast synergy has 6 units, so these 6. You're gonna see this in every single slide. I'm just gonna go over each of the mechanics so that you guys kind of like, it's good to basically refresh your memory, it says, okay? So when you have beasts, you get to have increased base damage for your heroes and summons. So it's very important that this includes whatever you summon. So summons from Lone Druid, summons from Lycan, summons from Vino. They all get the benefit of added percent. And these are additive. So if you have 2 beasts, you get 10%. If you have 4 beasts, you add the previous one, so you get 25%. And if you get all 6 beasts, then you get that's 45% extra damage, okay? So basically, that increases your killing speed, all right? Means that you can actually focus fire down certain units really fast on the enemy's team, and then you can basically win fights that way. You also get this bonus on, well, it's obvious that you're getting on all team heroes. You're not just getting on the beasts, which is kind of, special to beasts, because usually tribes only buff their own tribe members. So if you have like a strong unit that's a lot of base attack, like PA or like SF, then you get a little bonus, and you also get increased mana gain for attacking. That's actually huge, right? So for something like Lycat or LD, you want these guys to ulti immediately, like as fast as you can. And if you have the beast bonus, you don't even need to put it in the front line. They can just like generally gain a lot of mana. Oh, especially for Vino as well. Another perk for beasts is that it's very easy to make, right? Like there's 6 beasts, you only need 2 for the bonus. And if it's not working out, you can just transition out of it. So it's like super simple. Very flexible build, beasts. And when you go beasts, what you want to do is you want to try and pair them with things that are already found within the tribe, right? So warriors is a very natural build because of Tusk and Lycan. These are both these are both warriors. And of course druids, there's only 2 druids right here, right? So like these are just really easy to pair up. How do you counter beasts? Well, usually you don't really need to counter beasts. You just kind of need to outvalue them or whatnot. But if you're really struggling with beasts and the top player is beasts, you might want to consider some AoE. And you might consider some burst and focus fire, because, well, if beasts do a lot of damage, then you also want to focus fire them down so that less damage is coming up. We've got a hyper aggressive one. We've got trolls. Trolls give increased attack speed for your heroes, and there's 4 units, right? There's Bat Rider, Shadow Shaman, Witch Doctor, and Troll Warlord. If you have 2 of them, they give you 35% attack speed for only the trolls, for only your trolls. But if you assemble all 4, you get plus 30% attack speed on all heroes. What that means is that if you have 4 trolls, that's insane amounts of attack speed for your trolls, because each of them gets 65% attack speed, right? Because once again, all bonuses add up with each other, right? And then all your other units also get 30% attack speed. So insane focus fire. This is the best focus fire build you could ever have in Autochess. You just actually smart people down even faster than the beast, right? You get faster mana gain as all aggressive archetypes generally go. And trolls are very easy to pair with other tribes. We're going to see some pairing later. But one thing to note, that if you have you can get very lucky with items, you might want to consider trolls, because there's extra effectiveness when you equip Troll Warlord with all your items, like damage items or whatnot, because he gets extra attack speed, right? So if you have a lot of attack speed, and you have a lot of attack damage, then that's insane. So that is really good. Now, this trolls pairs really well with Warlocks, because I'm sure you guys heard, attack speed, deal more damage, and then Warlocks can life gain, right? It's actually one of the only tribes that does really well with Warlocks. And of course, Disruptor is insane. Okay, Disruptor would be insane in this comp. Not only does it synergize with Shamans, with Shadow Shaman, you also get to basically silence their ass. right? And when their ass is silenced, they cannot conquer ship you, they cannot Medusa you, they cannot Tide Hunter you, which means that you can attack, right? Because the counter to this tribe is AoEs and stuns. And if they're doing that, and then all your units die, well, guess what? Dead units can't do damage, right? So that's why Disruptor is like a huge pairing of Trolls. You really want a Disruptor. Almost to the other aggressive one, also a great win. Like, Trolls are a good win condition. Well, guess what? Dragons are also a good win condition. 3 dragons here. There's Puck, Viper, and Dragon Knight, of course. And if you have all 3 of these dragons, these units all start with 100 mana. Which means that at the start of the fight, you get a Illusory Orb, you get a Viper Strike, and you also get to transform your Dragon Knight. So it's actually huge, right? There's a huge burst potential at the start. You also transform Dragon Knight into one of the best carries in the game, right? Dragon Knight 2 starts splash damaging. And dragons are just very, very easy to pair with other tribes because Puck is a mage and an elf, right? Dragon Knight is a human and a knight, and then Viper is also assassin. So it's very easy to pair with other tribes with this. And of course, once again, because you're running a hyper carry, there's extra effectiveness from items. So you're a little bit more incentivized to run dragons if you have good items. Like I said, pairs of all the things that you can see. Pairs really well with mages, by the way. Mage dragons are insane, and of course knight dragons are insane. How do you counter dragons though? The best count is actually Lich. So if you're actually facing late game, there's a few dragon players that are still alive. You want to pick up a Lich really, really badly because, well, slowing their attack speed is really important, and usually they're gonna pair it with something else that is really good against your board, right? Lich doesn't care about that, okay? Lich doesn't care if you're mages or knights or whatever. It slows your attack speed down, deals a lot of damage. And a weird counter to dragons is actually just to spread your units. If your units are all across your board, then the Dragon Knight can't really splash. The Puck can't really bowling ball your whole all your units, right? So just make sure they spread out against dragons, okay? Next up, we have Undead. Undead we have 5 units here with Drow, Abbey, Necro, Lich, and DP. And the bonus is that you reduce armor for all your enemies. If you're 2 undead, they reduce by 4 armor. If you're 4 undead, you reduce them for a total of 10 armor. And same thing, right? If you reduce the armor, not only is it very fast to kill them, you also gain mana. This actually, the first point is actually a little understated. When you reduce the armor of your opponent's units, you actually increase all their incoming physical damage, right? This has a big bonus because you can actually kill them before they ulti, especially level 1 units, right? If you're against like a Lycan or if you're against like a Beastmaster or something like that early game, and you actually focus them down with Undead bonus, they can't ulti, they just die. So Undead is actually one of the best early game tribes you can have, and it also scales in the late game too. Once again, very easy to assemble. You just need 2 undead. Might be pretty hard to do early game because you need exactly Drow and you need exactly Abbey. It's still very easy. So like if undead's not really working out for you, you can just move out of it. Pairs with everything. Pairs of hunters because there's a Drow hunter. Pairs of knights because Abbey's a knight. Pairs of warlocks because we have 2 warlocks here. Pairs really well with Beastmaster and other units that have a physical damage ulti, right? Because well, the wild axis is physical damage, so like keep an eye out for that. And the only real counter to undead is orcs because, well, they get the armor, right? And the armor gain is actually more than the negative armor. But usually there's not a lot of counters to undead. They just have to either outlevel you or like make another do another angle. So that's why undead is just really, really good. Orcs? No. I meant sorry. I meant warriors. Because warriors gain armor and not orcs. Alright, well, yep. Thank you to the live chat. Okay, guys, not orcs. Warriors, okay? Alright, next up, we have a few more aggressive ones to go. Next one is mages. There's 7 mages here. There's Ogre Magi, Puck, Crystal Maiden, Lina, Razor, Caudle, and Lich. And this gives a huge bonus reduces your enemy's magic resistance. So if you have 3 mages, it's negative 40%, so they take 40% more magic damage. And if you have 6 mages, they take another negative 40%. But magic resistance stacks in a way that if you have more of them, you get more effect. So if you have 6 mages, they actually take basically 100% more damage. So going full mages is actually not bad, right? Imagine if your Kato deals double damage or your Razor deals double damage. That's a lot, right? And if you have like some random magic resist items, then you can actually improve them even more. I wanted to put statistics in this video, but it ended up being too long a guide. So the next guide will be about statistics, will be exactly why this works. Like 40 plus 40 shouldn't be 96, but I'll explain this in the next guide. Anyways, back to mages. Insane burst damage and insane AoE damage. It's a very easy to start a fight late game that when you have mages, you just melt them. You just delete their whole army in like 3 seconds, and then you can just do cleanup afterwards. This makes it so that you give a lot of pressure to your opponent because there's not a lot of tribes that can counter this, right? Usually, you know, every unit is kind of like a level 2 unit. The best counter to this is like a level 3 unit. So when you are playing mages, you blank your opponent's strategies. It basically means they have to fix something about their strat, which is really, really good because they have to go out their way to, for example, get Nagas, right? Or, for example, get a Disruptor. Good pairings for mages include units that can magic ult. So SF has a magic damage ulti. Same thing with Kunkka. Kunkka also delivers a stun, so that's really, really good for your mages. And weirdly enough, Disruptor is also really good in mages because, well, Disruptor just does everything here, right? Does magic damage, AoEs, silences them so they can't actually react to it, right? Like, Tide Hunter can actually be really, really bad against mages. So when you play mages, you need to pick a Disruptor because otherwise your opponent's gonna take a Disruptor. It's kind of like it's a lot of pressure to pick this unit up. It's so strong. So once again, pick units that have magic damage ultis. Like Gyro also has magic damage. Necro also has magic damage. You know, stuff like that. All right. Next up, we have Assassins. Assassins is super aggressive. There's 9 assassins in the game. Bounty Hunter. We have a lot of 2s. A lot of $2 assassin. Oh, guys, Ricky is a 3. Okay, fixed it. Okay, so we have Morphling, Quap, Ricky, Slark. We have Viper, PA, Sand King, and TA. TA is like, it's actually kind of like the cornerstone. Super strong, super tanky. This is kind of like very, very important. All right, and of course, Assassins gives critical strike chance. At 3, it gives you 10%. At 6, it gives you a 50% chance of 4 times. And then at 9, it gives you 20% at 5 times, okay? Whoops. So, yeah, it's interesting to note that the critical strike actually uses the most damage. So you don't really have to worry about that. For example, if both the 3x and the 5x trigger, the game will use the 5x. So you always get the biggest benefit. Not that it doesn't really, you can't really affect this or anything, so it doesn't really matter. But with Assassins, you get some perks. Obviously, you get a lot of increased damage because you know, they crit. But the increased damage comes in the form of burst, which is actually better because when you burst the unit down once again, you remove them from the battle, so they stop doing anything, and they also get to stop ulting, right? If you ult immediately on like a Disruptor or like on a key unit like Enigma, they can't actually affect the team anymore, so it's insane. Technically speaking, they're still assassins, so they can kill backline units easily. If you're the only assassin player, then it's really hard to position against you, so you get that benefit. And as we saw from multiple times, especially during my stream, right? When you play assassins, you can misdirect your opponent's ultis away from your team. This doesn't even apply to just assassins. You just run like 1 or 2 assassins, and then your opponent's Enigma is just gonna be stupid and just ulti your just your assassin, and then that can just win you random fights, which is insane. Assassins are generally a big mid-game power spike, so make sure you can pair them with something that is also really good at mid-game. So stuff like Elves is really good with Assassins. you also want to basically just either have very good tanks, so Tiny or Lone Druid. They also give some extra benefits with Beasts and Elementals. Or you just want to stun their ass with Medusa and Tidehunter and stuff like that. Counters to Assassins are basically very simple. You just need them to stop doing damage. So you either AoE them down all at once, or you stun their ass and they can't attack because they're stunned. Onwards to Hunters. We have 7 Hunters in the game. They are Drow, Beastmaster, Windranger, Mirana, Sniper, Medusa, and Tidehunter. Very interesting to know about Tidehunter and Medusa is that there's a very good late game, right? They both stun. They both work very well with each other, and you can actually assemble the Naga synergy very easily late game here. So this is just really, really strong. So if you actually get if you get a few units, like if you get like a level 2 Windranger or like a level 2 Beastmaster, then look for this. Anyways, Hunters give increased base damage for your Hunters, obviously. 25% base AD for 3 and 6. And because you get increased damage, you gain mana faster. That's basically the trend of aggressive strategies, is that you gain mana faster. So you cannot underestimate this. Aggressive strategies are really, really good. Very easy to pair with other tribes and synergies. So yeah, easy to get the Naga going on, easy to get Elves going on. Beastmaster is one of the best Orcs, so you can get the Orcs going on. And the only real counter to Hunters is just burst them out. There's not really a huge big counter to this. I mean, you can run like armor for warriors or whatnot, but I don't think it's even that effective. So you just have to position correctly against Hunters. All right, we have a final aggressive build. It's Demons. Demons are obviously a little bit weird because you only want one of them. There's a CK, Quap, SF, Terrorblade, and Doom. And there's a bonus with Fel Power. So what Fel Power does is that it gives your attacks an extra 50% pure damage. So whatever damage it's going to deal, 50% of the damage is going to convert to pure, which is really, really strong. So if you have exactly one demon on your team, that demon gets Fel Power. So it's basically 1.5 units, which is a lot, right? You're buying 1 unit, and then it's doing 1.5 units worth of damage, which is insane. And obviously, you don't want 2+ demons, because otherwise, none of your demons get Fel Power, which is really bad. Biggest perk of a demon is high cost efficiency. Every team basically wants one because it's such a big increase to your team's power. And Fel Power actually has a secret mechanic. Fel Power generates extra mana on top of attack damage. So what does that mean? Basically, that means that whenever an SF attacks, usually you're going to see a huge mana gain. So that's why, usually like SF ulti super fast, Quap ulti super fast. It's because Fel Power stacks their mana on top of the normal attack. That's why they can ult really fast. So you should expect your demons to be really, really powerful in that regard. And if you have any mana regen items and you stack it on a demon, they can ult even faster. That's why Voidstone is one of the Quap's best friend, right? And even Terrorblade can use like Voidstone. They just ult so quickly. And of course, easy to incorporate into team roster. Pairs with any team. Any of a team wants a demon, obviously. Counters, once again, not much. I mean, you can run a Demon Hunter and then you can focus fire them down, but generally speaking, demons are just insane. All right, onwards to the only mixed tribe here. It's both a mix of aggressive and defensive. It's the Demon Hunters. Like I said, Demon Hunters remove the Fel Power from your opponent if you only have one of them. So if you have like an Anti-Mage or a Terrorblade, then it's fine. And if you have 2 Demon Hunters, then all your demons get Fel Power. And it's no exception. So it doesn't matter what your opponent is running. It doesn't matter how many demons you have. They all get Fel Power. First up, you remove 1/3 of the enemy demon's damage. So basically remove half a unit from your opponent's roster. So there's already a lot of incentive to run Anti-Mage or Terrorblade, right? Because you just kill your opponent's unit immediately, which is technically speaking a level advantage, right? And once again, Fel Power generates extra mana on top. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. It's very, very important. So if you are running the full demon build, then make sure you run the demons that have very, very good ultis. Pairs of demons. What a surprise! What is a good counter to this? Well, the counter is actually just damage. Demons actually have like 0 defense. They are very squishy. So if you're facing against a demon comp, just kill them. Like they just die. So position your units correctly and, you know, kill the Terrorblade fast before he ultis, stuff like that. We have Elves. There's a lot of Elves you can choose from. There's 9 Elves, as you can see all the way here. They're generally pretty cheap, so very easy to assemble. So what happens when you get Elves? Well, you add a chance to evade attacks for your Elves. These are multiplicative, so you do not get the full benefit. So the first one is 25%. If you get 6 Elves, you get another 25%. So that's 44% dodge. Okay, so you get a little bit less than 50%. And if you do it the last one, you get about 58% dodge. So you don't add them up. So this is, once again, 40, 42-ish, and 57-ish, something like that. However, there is no diminishing returns. So even though you get less of a bonus, it's actually a pure bonus. I'll explain that once again in my next video. Just think of it as like an extra 25%, okay? Just think of it as like really, really good. So what's the perks? Well, you obviously increase the survivability for your Elves because they don't die, they start dodging stuff. But more importantly, and more frustratingly, you deny mana gain from enemy heroes. When your enemy does not attack your Elves, like they can't deal damage because the attack got dodged, they actually don't get any mana, which is insane, right? Insane on units that actually need to ult. So stuff like Beastmaster, stuff like Lycan, stuff like Medusa, you know? This is the most frustrating mechanic that you can face when you're against an enemy elf team. That's why this is so powerful. Another very important aspect to Elves dodging attacks is that you get improved effectiveness for healing and armor, right? So if you're dodging half of the attacks and then suddenly your Necro heals for that, then not only are you healing the 2 attacks, you actually get to heal for 4 attacks, right? Because the 2 attack damage came from 4 attacks, and then if you heal 2 attacks, you get another, you can take another 4 attacks. Same thing goes with armor, right? So make sure if you can pair that up, that'll be really good. It also pairs with HP. So if you get a vitality booster, that'll be really strong. And then of course, huge hero pool to assemble the combo, right? Like it's very easy to make the elf work. Pairs with any tribe. I mean, it's so huge. You can just find stuff that works. Okay, you can go knights because there's a Luna. You can go assassins. There's 2 assassins here. You can go hunters. A very flexible build. Counters. Well, you can't deal damage by attacking them, so you can deal damage by bursting their ass. So you either AoE them down or you run some mages and you kill them that way. There's also some ultis that they cannot dodge, such as like techies. They can't dodge bombs because any spell is basically undodgeable. Techies are good, you know, Enigma is good, Lich is good, stuff like that. All right, next one we have Orcs. Orc. 4 Orcs here. Interesting to note that Orcs are very easy to assemble early game. There's 3 early game units. There's the Axe, there's Beastmaster and Jug, and then Disruptor is also an Orc. Bonus. Increased health on your Orcs. If you have 2 Orcs, they all get 200 HP. If you have all 4 Orcs, they all get 500 HP. So this is actually huge, right? Like if you have all 4 Orcs, there's a 2000 HP increase. 2000, right? And if you can pair them with other stuff, like the Warriors, that we can see later, that's probably going to be pairs with. I mean, definitely going to be there. Then the health is going to be even better because you have armor on top of it, right? So huge survivability spike for early game because your units don't die. And it's also pretty good late game too. Improves effectiveness of armor and magic resist because you have a big health pool. And also very easy to assemble and transition out of. So once again, pairs well with Warriors. Pairs really well with damage. Because when you have a lot of meat shields in the front, then your damage at the back can, you know, survive a little bit longer. So damage is going to be really good for Orcs. And the only real counter is really Burst and Focus Fire. There's not really a big counter to Orcs. Orcs are really, really strong. Next up, we have Warriors, the natural pairing to Orcs. Lots of Warriors to choose from. And the bonus for Warriors is that you get additional armor for your Warriors. If you have 3, you get 7 armor. If you have 6, then you get 8 armor. And if you have 9, then you have an extra 9 armor. Now, this is actually, they add together really, really well, right? So if you have 6 Warriors, they have 15 armor. And God forbid you have all 9, then you have like an insane 24 armor, right? So what does this mean? This means that armor means that you can increase durability and you also have effective HP. And You also improve effectiveness of HP gain, which means that Orc Warriors are just such a solid build, right? Another thing with armor is that you deny mana gain from enemy heroes. They deal less damage, therefore they gain less mana. Therefore they can ult slower, which is great. And, once again, huge shield. Pairs well with Orcs. Pairs well with damage. Pretty much the same thing as Orcs, yeah? The counter is, well... If you can't deal damage physically, then you have to deal damage magically, right? So run some mages that can actually burst them down. Or a very interesting tidbit to counter warriors is to just heal, right? Warriors don't deal a lot of damage, so if you can outlast them and just kind of grind them out, then it's actually really good. So things like heals are really, really good. Things like elves are really, really good against warriors. They just can't heal fast. They're very, very slow. Next up, we've got humans. Humans is actually a little bit mixed. The silence is a little aggressive and a little defensive at the same time. 7 humans to choose from, and when you have humans, there's a percentage chance to silence enemies when you auto attack them. So when you have 2, you get 20%. When you have 4, you get effectively 40% on your auto attacks, and with 6 you get 58%. There's like total chance of silencing your opponent. Very strong against now formations. If you have watched my formation guide or positioning guide, you should definitely do that. There's things that have alt now, so stuff like they put the Tidehunter in front, or they put the Medusa in front. Well, guess what? If you have like a Kunkka, or you have some humans, like if you're running mages, and then at the back they auto attack that guy, that will be absolutely perfect because you can just silence them. This is more of a secondary tribe. It's very easy to form if you already have, tribes that have humans in them. Dragon Knights are really, really good because, you have Knights. Omni Knight is really good with Dragon Knight. If you have mages, it's very easy. If you're doing beasts, it's very easy to get one. Kunkka is pretty good in all comps. So if you need to beat things that get out now, then you should do that. And of course, Lena is a 3 cost. Pairs well with knights, mages, and warriors, like we said. And the only counter to humans is positioning. If you are facing down, if it's like top 3 or something. If you're top 3, there's only 2 opponents left, and one of them is running humans, then you might want to reposition your Tidehunter, or you want to reposition your Kunkka yourself, so that the silence doesn't really happen. Oh man, onwards to knights. Very, very good defense tribe. Possibly one of the best defensive tribes. So there are 6 knights in the game. And the bonus for knights is that you get a percentage chance to gain a shield every 3 seconds. The shield is plus 30 armor and plus 75% magic resist, which is insane. That's huge, right? So what is the percentage chance? We have two knights, you get a 30% chance to get a shield. When you have 4 knights, you get another 30% chance to get a shield. And when you have 6 knights, you have to get another 30% chance to get a shield. Now, when each shield procs up independently, what does that mean? It means that they are each separate rolls. So imagine you're rolling a 30% piece of dice, okay? You're rolling a die, it's 30% chance to work. If you have all 6 knights, you actually roll 3 dice. So it's very easy for one to come up, right? So that's always good. But guess what? You can actually get double and triple shields. When you roll 3 dice and they all come up heads, you get 3 shields. And the 3 shields actually stack on top of each other. So when you have triple shields, you get 90 armor, and you also get like insane amounts of magic resist. This 3 magic resist shields is probably something like 95% or something stupid, okay? Which is insane, okay? You actually basically take no damage. This single point here is basically why 6 knights is such a strong combination. It's because the double and triple shields are just insane, right? You basically make your knight immune. So huge survivability spike for higher levels. The more knights you get, the more survivability you get. 4 is infinitely better than 2. It's actually a huge increase compared to other tribes. And of course, you improve effectiveness for healing armor because, you're healing shield health, right? You're armoring shield stuff. So really, really strong if you can actually get some of those. And of course, shields deny mana gain from the enemy heroes. One super important fact is that knights can actually proc their shields through stuns and silences. Well, super consistent build, man. Like, it seems like it's an RNG effect with the shield, but because of this, like, you don't even care your opponent's Tidehunter or Dusa, right? You can just have the shield anyways. One interesting thing to note for Knights is that at the first 3 seconds of the fight, you will never get a Knight shield because the first Knight proc starts in 3 seconds. So if you're running Knights, it's actually a little recommended to put your Knights a little bit back so that the fight starts a little bit later, right? You will not get a shield the first 3 seconds, no matter what. Pairs with heals. Yes, healing is great for Knights. Also pairs really well with Elves. But effectively, you can just do Knights. 6 Knights is usually the way to go. What is the counter to this then? Well, the counter to basically insane amounts of armor and insane amounts of magic resist is pure damage. There's Enigma, pure damage. Enigma doesn't care about shields, it just actually pierces through them. You can also run stuff like, stuns or stuff like that, so hopefully buy you a little bit more time. Omni is also pure damage, but usually it's really, really difficult to grind Knights out. You just need to grind them out. They don't do a lot of damage, but they survive a lot. Onwards to Gobbos! Gobbos is a very defensive mechanic, but the defensive mechanic is effectively a very aggressive mechanic because you save your units, right? And a living unit can deal damage. 6 Gobbos, lots early game, as you can see here. It's very easy to assemble the Goblins, and basically we call this Tron. What the heck is... What the... Dude, I have to actually explain it here. Okay, Ed covered this with a new slide, okay? If you have 3 Goblins, you get nanobots. Alright, it gives you 10 HP regen and 15 armor, as I remember. So it gives it to the random unit. It doesn't really choose a goblin, it just gives you a random unit. So a random unit has very big survivability. And if you have all 6 goblins, all your goblins get nanobots, in addition to a random unit getting nanobots as well. So lots of survivability, lots of armor gain. So it's insane for the early game. Huge power spike for the early game. And it's also very cheap, right? These units are they're 1 cost each, right? So it's very easy to assemble Tron. And Tron can actually push you through to round 10 or even round 15. It's very, very easy, right? You just get the buff and your opponents attack it and they just lose. Very easy to transition out of because they're so cheap. You're not really investing a lot of money into it. And if you happen to go into full Goblins, then it's actually a great win condition. So it pairs well with Mechs because, most Goblins are Mechs already. And the counters to Goblins, there's a lot of counters to Goblins. So make sure that you do actually transition out of them if you're not full Goblins. So Mages can counter them, Focus Fire can counter them, AoE can counter them in the late game because... Well, 6 Goblins is insane, right? So what better way to do that than to just, do a lot of damage to them and just ignore their armor and just do magic damage. All right. Next up, we've got Mechs. Okay. Mechs is Mechs. There's not much more to say than that. Pairs very well with Goblins and they gain a lot of HP regen. If you have 2 Mechs, they all gain 15 HP regen. And if you have 4 Mechs, they all gain 25 HP regen. So for a total of 40 HP regen. So they regenerate a lot of freaking health. So yes, great early game survivability and very strong against consistent damage. What consistent damage means is that if your opponent is attacking all your units at the same time. So if you have 4 Mechs and they have 4 units and each of their unit is attacking a separate mech, then it's insane, right? Because that's consistent damage. And all your mechs are regenerating at the same time. So make sure that all your mechs are getting that benefit. So they all you position them as so that they all take some sort of damage. Very good with Goblins. And there's not really a big counter because, well, it's just HP gain. You don't really need to counter it. It doesn't really matter. All right, onwards to Elementals. Elementals have a very interesting defensive mechanic. It's Petrify. So what happens is when you get attacked by a melee attacker, there's a chance to stun them for 4 freaking seconds, okay? There's only 4 Elementals in the game, so it's pretty hard to build. But if you have 2 of them, you get 30% chance on all your Elementals. If you have all 4 of them, then all your heroes have the Petrify shield thing. So obviously... needless to say, spectacular against melee compositions. If your opponent's running warriors or orcs, then this is just backbreaking. 4 seconds of stun is insane. Imagine of Tidehunter, right? Tidehunter is a freaking 2-second ult. You basically ult Tidehunter twice against melee compositions. That's huge, right? Stun also denies mana gain because they can't attack anymore. And technically speaking, they're very easy to transition off, because if you have a Tiny and a Razor, then that can last you through early game, and if it's not working out, you can just change up to something else. What does this pair well with? Well, if they're stunned, and if you're elementals, then you want to damage them down, right? So this pairs really well with damage. Generally speaking, these units don't really do a lot of damage. And pairs really well with assassins, because there's already a Morphling, right? You just need one more unit, and then you can put your elementals to the front line, and then your opponent's gonna get distracted by the assassins at the back. You know, stun the front line, kill the back line. Very easy. The counter is good positioning. Sometimes you cannot change what you're doing. If you're already warriors, you can't just sell all your warriors just to counter elementals. That does not make sense, right? And if you're not melee, then guess what? You don't need to counter elementals. So if you are actually running melee units and your opponent's running elementals, make sure that your melee targets are not attacking the Tiny that's stunning all your guys. Just, you know, reposition. All right, onwards to Nagas. Nagas are a very reactive tribe. There's 4 Nagas in the game, and what the heck, dude? Okay, thank you. Okay, they give you magic resist. Okay, so 2 Nagas give you 30% magic resist, and 4 Nagas give you another 30% magic resist, for a total of 50% magic resist, I want to say. So the magic resist stacks really well. So what does Nagas do? Well, you're never gonna be planning for Nagas. You're never gonna go in a game and go like, okay, you know what? I am going Naga synergy and it's gonna work out for me. No, it's not gonna work out that way. You want to do Nagas if you're already using one of the units, right? And your opponent's running magic damage. If you are struggling really hard against mages, like if it's just actually just terrible, your opponent's running 6 mages, it's late game or whatnot, then you just want to aim for the Medusa Tidehunter combo, because these 2 units are really strong and they're both Nagas, and you get the 30% magic resist, which is really good. But just make sure that you're not actually aiming for this. All right, almost to the utility tribes. First up, we have Druids. Possibly the tribe that confuses new players the most. Because their bonus is that they can combine units easier into 2 stars and 3 stars. So let's explain this. When you have Druids, and you have 2 1-star Druids, so 2 Enchantress, how you can combine them is you need 1 other different Druid. Okay? So 2 Enchantress plus any one of these means that you can make a 2-star Enchantress. You have to make sure they're all on the board, by the way. So you have to put the 2 Enchantress on the board, put a Fury on the board, and then make sure you move the Enchantress, because this effect only happens when you move a unit. And then it's a 2-star unit. When you have 4 Druids, so you have all 4 Druids, then you can actually start combining 2 2-star units into a 3-star unit if you have all the Druids. So once again, let's phrase this out again. You have 2 Enchantress 2-stars, okay? To make the 3-star Enchantress, you need a Furion on the board, you need a Tree on the board, and you need a Lone Druid on the board. Okay? So that's how Druids work. Alright, perks for building Druids. Well, upgrades your units super fast. You only need 2 of them, so you don't need to roll that much. You don't need to dig that deep. So very easy to upgrade. Very easy to pair as a second tribe, because you know, if you're just running Elves, then you just randomly have these units. Then you go like, oh, I can just pair them up. Very risk-free to put on the bench. This is actually huge for Druids, right? Other tribes, well, literally every other unit in the game, you need to basically flood your bench. Like, how many times have you flooded your bench and go like, oh no, I have no bench space? Well, guess what? With Druids, you just only need to have so many. You can free up so much space. And of course, the last perk is the Enchantress gain gold trick, where if you have 2 Enchantresses, you're basically spending 2 gold. If you combine for a 2-star Enchantress, it actually sells for 3 gold. So you're actually gaining 1 gold from the transaction. So if you don't even need to be in Druids to use this trick. So that's why Enchantress is always kind of like a good buy. A 1 gold in the early game can make a huge difference. So make sure you keep an eye out for the double Enchantress trick. Oh, pairs really well with Elves. It also pairs pretty well with Beasts, because 2 of these are Beasts already. But it does pair the best with Elves. What is the counter to Druids? Well, the counter to Druids is just look at their units, right? I mean, they don't really have a stat line, right? They don't actually gain additional health or damage or whatever like that. So to counter these units, silence them before they can summon more units, or just doom them. It is basically so. All right, next up we have another utility. We have Shamans. There's only 2 Shamans in the game, and if you have both of these Shamans, which is Shadow Shaman and Disruptor, you hex a random enemy at the start of the fight. Okay, that is a typo. Holy Jesus Christ. It's a 6-second hex. It's not 4 seconds. It's actually huge. All right, so when you have 2 Shamans, you remove a unit in your opponent's board for 6 seconds. That's huge. That's basically, effectively, a 10 versus 9, as you can see here, which basically means that you get a level advantage. Getting extra level is insane. Especially late game. Like, you're basically level 11. Think of it that way. You're level 11, your opponent's level 10. So Shamans are very, very big. And it's super easy to pair if you're running one of these units regularly. So if you're running Orcs, you can just buy a Shadow Shaman. If you're running Trolls, you can just buy a Disruptor. Very easy. This combo is one of the best you can do against PvE mobs, right? Dragon, if you fight against Lunar Beast, you know, like very, very powerful. You can just hex them, super, super strong. So just make sure that you have to make sure that every team can beat PvE, right? And this one, you don't need to even worry about that too much. Next up, we have Warlocks. Warlocks is perhaps the most misunderstood tribe in the whole game, because people overrate it super highly. 7 Warlocks in the game, and if you have Warlocks, well, your team gets lifesteal. It doesn't include your Warlocks. It's basically your whole team. With 3 Warlocks, you get 20% lifesteal, and if it's 6 Warlocks, you get a total of 50% lifesteal for all your units. Why build Warlocks? Well, first of all, it's really strong. It's an AoE, okay? You want the Warlock synergy as more of a reactive tribe than anything, okay? If your opponent is running Razor and stuff like that, Razor deals damage to all your units, right? So if you have lifesteal, your units at the back can start gaining health to prepare for the next AoE. So that's where the lifesteal does really, really well. The other way of using Warlock synergy really well is that you can scale them with damage, armor, or attack speed. If you have any of those, then the Warlock lifesteal gets a little bit better, right? And if you don't have this, if you don't have these things, then the Warlock doesn't do anything for you. So just make sure you don't go like, oh my god, I have mages, but this Warlock synergy is so good. No, it's not, okay? It's not. Very effective on high base damage heroes. So it's something like Shadow Fiend has a very high base damage. So you just have to know which units have high base damage by clicking on them and just checking. TA has a very high base damage. And a good tip to run when you are Warlocks is that you need to make sure that all your units are taking some damage, right? If you are full health and you're lifesteal, you do not gain a bonus at all. So if you're running Warlocks, make sure to position so that, you know, most units are taking a little bit of damage. Usually you don't need to worry about that too much because every comp has AoE. But if you have Warlock in the mid game especially, you should keep that in mind. Pairs with stuns, because when you stun your opponent's team, you get time to lifesteal back, right? So it's really, really good with stuns. Insane. The counter to lifesteal, obviously, it's just to burst them down one by one. Because, well, if you're hitting everything, then you just life gain, and it's just kind of stupid. All right, and then we have 3 unique tribes. Unique tribes are generally pretty bad in this game, but if they actually ever come up with a good unique tribe, then it's kind of like a OP unit, like a standalone. Like, for example, Disruptor is kind of like a unique tribe, right? Because it's so unique. But let's start with Ogre. Ogre is 10% health on self. So he buffs himself up by 10% health. Very, very simple. Not much to say. He only buffs himself. There's only one perk with this, is that if you have any HP items, such as like a Vitality Booster or like a Reaver or something like that, then you actually get the extra 10% on top of it. One of my videos had Vanguard on the Ogre, and it was actually insane because, you know, he already gains a lot of health. He gets extra health, and then just, yeah, he can take a lot. So that's Ogre. Next up, we've got Dwarf. Dwarf, there's only 2 dwarves in the game. There's Sniper and there's Gyrocopter. And what they do is they give 300 attack range on their self. So they attack from really, really far away. And as far as I'm concerned, that basically gives you no bonus. Because, like, dude, that's just bonus range, dude. Like, what? You can jump 1 space less? Why isn't the range already inside the character? And why can't Dwarf just get an actual tribe bonus? There's no perks to running Dwarves. No. There's no perks. That's why Sniper and Gyro is considered the worst legendary unit because of this fact, right? You're losing one of the tribal bonuses. And Sniper is also really bad because not only is it a bad unit, he doesn't have a tribe. So it doesn't synergize with anything. So Dwarves are kind of meh. And finally, we have Satyr. Ricky hides your bench when the Satyr is in your bench. And the bonus is you make your opponents blind, but you also make yourself blind. So as far as I know, there's no perk there. It might actually be a disadvantage because you had to squint your eyes. Satyr is just basically nothing. So as you can see, there's a lot of tribes in the game. And what makes Dota Autochess really cool is because you can technically just mix and match. All right, there's just so many strategies you can do with every single game. Like, I mean, just look at this. Okay, if you make a little diagram here, so warriors, right? Warriors pair really well with healing. So so it pairs well with warlocks because they have armor, and then warriors also pair with orcs. Orcs pairs with here. Orcs are generally pretty good with just getting a lot of HP, so you can you can actually just get some more armor and stuff like that for warriors. It's really good, which I already said. But my point is, everything kind of relates to something else. Elves goes with knights, Nagas kind of themselves, but it pairs really well with hunters. So hunters going here, and then hunters do a lot of damage, so they technically do pair well with warlocks as well. And then hunters kind of pair with warriors, because if you're warriors, then why not take hunters, just damage and increase and stuff like that. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is that everything kind of just pairs with everything, so if you just that's not a good pairing, but you get what I mean, right? Everything is kind of like pairs well with everything. So just make sure to keep your tribes out for each other. Finally, it's really important to know what tribes to build at what time. First of all, early game, you need to stabilize. You need to kind of find, try and get your win streaks. You also, if you're not getting win streaks, you need good income. So what tribes are good in the early game? Well, we're going to rate it from 1 to 5, 1 being terrible, and then 5 being basically godlike, okay? So, first of all, assassins are really bad early game. They're basically non-existent because you're not going to build them, and they're very squish. Beasts are really good. You get a lot of attack damage. Demons are insane. And demon hunters are also insane because demons are insane, naturally. Dragons, you cannot build them early game. This does not happen. Druids tend to be really bad early game units. They just die. Dwarves are Omega Law because what phase? They're not even a tribe. Elementals are really good early game. Like, actually really good. They're not insane, but a lot of people underestimate them because a 4-second stun early game, there's not a lot of units, right? So if you stun a unit, then you can just play the numbers game. You're actually going to win very easily. Elves are reasonable early game. Usually you're not going to have too many elves yet. That's not the time. Goblins, king of early game, right? Like Tron, GG. Humans, you're not gonna get humans. What do you need? Silence. There's nothing with humans. Hunters, reasonable. You get you get increased damage, and you can focus fire down your opponent's units really quickly. So it's reasonable. Knights, you're not gonna be able to assemble knights that early. And 2 knights, sure, like 2 knights is reasonable, like Chaos Knight and Omni or something like that. But 2 knights is not really that good. The shield doesn't proc well enough. Mages are not happening. Mechs, very good early game, right? Very good. So that's why goblins and mechs are insane. Nagas, basically non-existent. Ogre, actually not bad. He actually soaks a lot of damage early game, so Ogre's not bad. Orcs, insane, right? Actually insane. Lots of health. Makes your units live longer so they can attack longer. Sailors with Omega Law. Shamans do not apply because you cannot get a disrupt. It's just not happening. And then we have Trolls, which is not that strong early game. You're not going to get the Troll Warlock that quickly, and they're not going to attack that fast. Undead, insane, right? Negative armor. Kills stuff faster, generally speaking. Warlocks, no, you're not going to do. And Warriors, armor. Insane early game. 7 armor in early game means that your opponents can't really kill you quickly enough. They can't gain mana, so it's generally really good. So important to note, the best early game units are the 5s and the 4s. So Goblins, Mechs, Warriors, Undead, Orcs, okay? So and demons, okay? You want to find a demon as soon as you can. So these are basically what you're looking for in the early game. The threes are okay too, but these would be the best early game. Onwards to the mid game. Mid game is rounds 10 and onwards. What you want to do in the mid game is you want to look for a transition to your late game. Like, what is your late game gonna look like? What comp is open? You know, it's usually in the mid game that you kind of want to scout what your opponent's doing, look for what's open, and you want to decide between like units. So you want to buy heroes, you want to level your things, or you want to actually upgrade and roll more, right? So what is the best way to get into the late game? Is your tribe built around a lot of expensive units? Then you want to upgrade your level. Is your tribe built around a lot of hero stars like assassins? Then you want to, roll more, for example. So you gotta decide. So mid game, once again, we have a little bit of a different weightings for our tribes. Assassins are really good in mid game. All right, like 6 assassins is a huge power spike. Start demolishing your opponents. Very, 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 very strong. Beasts are also probably the best in the mid game. The damage spike is insane, and usually Beast summons a lot of stuff, right? So summons can just actually destroy someone's transition. Demons are still really, really good, and demon hunters, well, still really good. I mean, demons get a little bit worse. They're not insane as insane in early game, but they're still really good. So yeah, it's all right. Dragons, not gonna happen. You're probably still gonna have level 1 dragons, and level 1 dragons are Omega Law. That's not gonna happen for you. Probably the best position, the timing for Druids to work out really well, because you can have like a huge power spike, right? You can have like 2-star units or even 3-star units as early as like round 15 or even round 10. Dwarves are still Omega Law. Elementals still work really well in mid game. Your opponent's still gonna get stunned. We have Elves, probably just the king of mid game. Oh my god, getting 6 Elves and your opponent just not being able to attack anything you have is just so backbreaking. Goblins, sharp decrease from the 5, goes down to a 2. The nanobots don't really do anything. I'm still good, but you really need to upgrade your units for this to be good. Humans get a little bit better because you can silence, you can just throw out some random silences. They're reasonable. Hunters really, really good, especially if you have like, a lot of damage dealers like Windrunner, Beastmaster, deal a lot of damage. Knights also insane. They get a lot of shields. It's by this time you should be able to get 4 knights, and the shields just stack really, really well. Mages, not really. Your composition's probably not gonna get there yet. So you're gonna still try and survive till late game. So mages, you pretty much want to hang in there. By the way, just so you know, if you have stuff like mages, right, and you want to do full-blown mages for the late game, because spoiler alert, mage is gonna be 5 in the late game, okay? Then you want to pair this with something else that's a higher number. So for example, if you go mage elves, then you can actually get the elves to bring you to the mid game to the late game. That's why these numbers are kind of important, right? It's not just this number. It's like kind of like different numbers in a sense. Wait, what the hell? Okay, mechs are definitely not a 5. What is that? Okay. Okay, oh, that's an Omega Law. Okay, mechs are not 5. They're more like they're like a 1, dude. Mid game, this is basically nothing. Okay, so this is a 1. Okay, 1. Nagas are a little bit more reasonable. There's a little bit more magic damage going around, so it's okay. Ogre gets a little bit worse, obviously. Orcs can just dude, orcs are insane in mid game. Very easy to get orcs, like 3 orcs that are cheap. Throw in a disruptor in there, and you get 2,000 bonus health, right? Insane. Sailors still Omega Law. Shamans get a little bit better. Generally speaking, your shamans are not going to be that high health, and you still want more damage in the mid game because Shadow Shaman doesn't really do damage, right? So, but generally, it gets a little bit better. And then, dude, the king of mid game, trolls. If you have 4 trolls and they're reasonable stars, and you have other attack damage, you just basically burn through your opponent, right? Insane. Undead, still really good, right? Still really good in the mid game. You just kill them faster. Warlocks still not really doing that good, and warriors also insane, right? The armor gain is insane. Mid game people are still doing damage. So as you can see, the best mid game strategies: elves, knights, trolls, orcs, undead, warriors. Demons are still really good. Beasts, assassins, there's a lot of choices for mid game. Okay, and also Druids. Because there's so many viable options in the mid game, you want to, once again, this is so important. People always ask me, it's like, Amaz, I always do really, really well early and mid game, but I can never win the late game. I always get like number 3 and number 4 or something like that. This is basically the main tip I want to give you. You need to look for the transition to late game. How are you gonna use these to make the late game build? Okay, so let's get into that. Okay, but just basically remember, if you die too fast, you need to build one of these. So a transition to late game. This is basically, it can start anytime. Some late games start at like even round 30 because people are dying. Some late games start at 40. Some late games start at 20, you know? It depends on how fast players are dying. So in late game, you need to finalize your lineup and decide whether, like, what your final upgrades are. Okay, you have only so much gold. You either reroll, you either get levels, or you get units, right? And then after that, you don't need to worry about the gold anymore. You need to position correctly. And you also need tech units, okay? If your opponent's running Elves, get that Enigma, you know? If your opponent is running Trolls, get those stuns. Very, very important to find the tech units and positioning more than the final upgrades. So let's run this through. Assassins, huge drop off in the late game. Very, very bad. If you're running Assassins, you need to win the mid game, okay? Like, so if everybody's dying really fast, then Assassins get better. Huge, sharp decrease. Same thing with Beasts. They don't really do any game-breaking stuff. Demons are still fine. They're a little bit worse. Demon Hunters are very, very bad now because Demons got worse. It really depends on your other units now because we're looking at Dragons, right? Dragons are your late game. Your Dragon Knight being level 2 splashes everything, and it just basically carries you. Druids, nope, still they become sharply bad. All right, you should sell your Enchantress late game. You should sell your Fury and stuff like that. And of course, Elementals. Late game, the stun doesn't really quite matter as much because most late game units are ranged. Elves are still maintaining a little bit of power, but you're not going to be as strong as the other tribes. So once again, if you're Elves, you need to look towards ending in the mid game. Goblins become 5 again because if you have 6 Goblins, you actually have a win condition, right? The nanobots are going to be insane and techies are going to do insane amounts of damage. So, if Goblins are working out for you, then go for it. Humans, get a little bit better. Once again, silence can actually win you a lot of key fights. Put your humans in front, by the way. Make sure they're attacking the key units. Hunters are actually fine because Hunters actually charge up your ulti faster. You want your Medusa to ult faster. You want your Tide Hunter to ult faster. So if you give them more damage, then they can ult faster. Knights, very, very strong late game. They can actually win late game. Their shields, once again, proc independently. And if you have 6 Knights, then your units just don't die. Just make sure you have enough damage when you play Knights. Mages, godlike in late game. You just basically burst down your opponent before they can have a say, and then once all their units die and you only leave about 1 or 2 units, usually the 3-star units, you can probably just grind them out. So mages are actually just godlike. Mechs don't really do anything. Nagas is a white 4. Now what that means is that it only is good if your opponent is running like magic damage based comps. So yeah, if they're not, then just you can forget about it. Ogre is like sad now because it's late game. His health doesn't really do that much. So is Orcs. Late game, once again, Orcs, like, health isn't really big of an issue. You just need the game breaking ultis. Satyr is still Omega Law. Shamans get insanely good in late game because since you have 10 units now, you can actually shift one of the units to like a utility one, right? So like Shadow Shaman. Removing one of your opponent's units from the game in the beginning of the fight can be huge, right? It can be actually game breaking. Like, I remove your Dragon Knight, I remove your Troll Warlord, or I can remove your Kunkka, very, very powerful. And then we have Trolls, which still maintains a little bit of value, but not as strong as mid game. Undead is still reasonable. Warlocks get a lot better late game because you can pair easily with other statistic synergies. And warriors are still basically fine because they're frontline. So let's go ahead and circle the ones that are really strong in the late game. Dragons, mages, and goblins. Those are your strongest late game builds. All right, if you want to win late game, those are where you want to go. And then of course knights, trolls, warriors, shamans, those are reasonable too. So there's not a lot of good late game comps. So you gotta just make things work here. Finally, there is one more slide, the bonus slide. Oh yeah, poggers. It is the acquisition difficulty. How hard is it to assemble this tribe? 1 being very, very specific, so very bad, and 5 is very broad and easy. Now, this is important because if a lot of people are going a specific tribe, you're all gonna lose. Okay, so if there's a tribe that's gonna be a 1, so it requires a very specific units, and there's not a lot of units, and everybody goes that shit, you're all gonna be losers because you can't share that many resources, right? It's like the example of wood. Well, there's wood all over the world, but then if everybody's vying for gold, then all the gold guys are gonna starve and they're gonna die. Okay. Acquisition also gives some scores on how flexible it is. So if a tribe is not working, can you transition out of it? There's a lot of tribes that are very all in, right? And those would be one. So let's go ahead and start. Assassins, very specific because you need every single assassin. Usually people are going to have 1 or 2 assassins in their build, and it's going to be really hard to get 6 assassins, and then you can't take anything else, and it's very, very all in. So assassins are very YOLO. So make sure that, well, either you're the only one going assassins, or assassins you just really have a lot of assassins. So very, very risky. Beasts, not that hard to acquire. People can share. Beasts are very easy to build generally. I mean, their bonus at 2 is not that huge, but usually if you want beasts, you can. Demons, super easy to acquire. Obviously, everybody just needs 1. There's so many demons. Just pick one up. Demon hunters at the same time, it's just anti-mage and it's just anti-mage and Terrorblade. You're not gonna actually go for this. Like, it's like, oh my god, I want demon hunters. But acquiring them shouldn't be too hard if your opponent is going to Terrorblade anti-mage synergy. Dragons are very specific as well. There's a lot of lobbies where 3 people do dragons and they all lose immediately. That's usually what happens. So make sure to scout if you're running dragons. Druids, very easy to acquire because they only require 2 units. I mean, there's so many fights that I see like lone druids on every single team comp and they all do fine. So it's fine. Dwarves are still Omega Law. Elementals, not too easy to acquire elementals if you actually want them because they are good standalone units. Like Enig and Razor are very, very good on their own. So if you do want to assemble elementals, then you probably need to be a little bit into it. Elves are actually not that hard to acquire. Elves can support 2 or 3 players usually. 2 players the best. 3 players starts to get a little bit but there's just so many elves. So if you want to go elves, it's very easy to make. Goblins, very easy to make, obviously, because it's early game, very cheap, and usually if people's goblins are they don't work out, they're just gonna sell them, right? So if you really want to go goblins, you can. Humans are very easy. I mean, humans, there's just so many humans to choose from. Hunters are very, very specific. You need the good hunters. You can't take the bad hunters, right? So you definitely want the Beastmaster, and you definitely want the Wind Runners. They are very, very hot. And otherwise, you have to go with like the shitty hunters, like Drow and Mirana. You know, those are a little bit worse. Except for Knights. Knights usually can support a few people, but if you want to get 6 Knights, you should try and be the only Knights going in. And once again, if you go Knights, you're not getting out. Knights are just kind of a little all in. So it's 3, it's okay. Mages are super freaking all in, dude. If you go mages, you have to go all in. You cannot half-ass it. If you half-ass the mages, you're gonna die because the burst potential is so important. So mages, just go for it. Mechs are super easy. I mean, Mechs is not even a synergy. So even though it's a 5, the power level of Mechs is kind of low, right? So don't think this is a measure of it's strong. Nagas pretty hard to acquire. There's only 4 Nagas in the game, and usually Slark and Slardar doesn't fit into most team comps. So get your Nagas fast. Ogre is there's not really a acquisition difficulty for Ogre, so this doesn't really apply to Ogre. Orcs are very easy to acquire. Once again, very cheap. Usually people sell them if they don't after early game. So if you want to go Orcs, it's great. Sailor is still Omega Law. Shamans, very, very difficult to acquire. It's 2 very specific units, and Disruptor is very, very hot in contention and like high in demand. So yeah, Shamans are usually just a nice mistake. Like if you're going for orcs and I happen to shadow shamans, that's fine. Or if you have trolls and you happen to have disruptor, that's fine. Trolls, insanely difficult. Insanely difficult. Trolls can only support one player. If there are two people going trolls, they will be 7th and 8th. Okay, that's just how it is. So if you go trolls, make sure you need to scout and you need to have those early game units. Okay, very important. Undead, also very specific. It's really hard to acquire them. They're all very high demand. And also very hard to get early game. Drow and Abaddon is pretty much kind of like the only way you can get it, but it's really worth it, right? Undead synergy is really, really strong. There's a million warlocks. If you want warlocks, you can have them. Just remember that this is not that strong. And there's also a million warriors. If you ever want to go warrior strat, there's lots of options for them. So there it is. That is my tribe guide, tribes and synergies. Hopefully that helped you out. If you have a specific troubles in a specific part of the game, this guide will actually help you. So what you want to do is you want to look back and go like, okay, I am having a lot of trouble in early game. I always start the game losing and then I do okay. Then guess what? You should go ahead and look at my early game, the early game slide, right? That's basically going to be super helpful for you. This one. So you're gonna go here and go like, I guess I should go build some goblins and I should build some undead early game and that will help me out. Stuff like that. And then same goes for late game. If you always lose late game, then just go ahead and look at this late game chart here. And of course, if you're having problems with a specific tribe, or if you don't know why people build a specific tribe, you can refer to my early slides. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Next guide coming up will be a very, very progress one. It's going to be the first advanced guide, because this would be a little bit more intermediate, right? The next guide is going to be on statistics. What exactly does 5 armor mean? We're going to answer that question in the next guide. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out my other guides here and here, or in the description below, whatever, on the other on the other stuff. Unit analysis and positioning. Very good guides. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, YouTube!